There's some joke in here about how many engineers it takes to find the live mic, but I won't do that. I don't want to take cheap shots this morning. And actually, in just a little bit, when I'm the first time that I ask you for participation, I'm going to tell you to forget that microphone thing because I want spontaneous, lots of comments coming out. So I don't want you to have to wait for the microphone. But that'll be the only time, if I call that rule off, that you don't get deducted, okay? All right, so this morning we're going to spend some time before lunch, and then we'll come back after lunch talking about leading change. Because as Frank said, this is an important part of your job. Since you're experienced managers, that means you've been here for some period of time, and this is probably a big duh for you that we have to deal with a lot of change. It just seems that the only constant at AMD seems to be change. So this is one of the what some people sometimes in a derogatory manner call the touchy-feely part of the workshop. And I know that some of you just probably had a stomach flip when I said those two words together, but we've set this up in a way that is, it's called accelerated learning. We're going to use a lot of techniques to learn quickly because this morning and this afternoon could be about a 2.5 to 3 day workshop. So that means that you're going to see some exercises in here that we probably won't do the exercise, but I want you to understand what you would do if we did have a couple of days to do the exercise. We want to get you to a point when we wrap up this afternoon that you have a lot of facts and information and theories and models of dealing with change to pull from. And after lunch, we actually are going to bring you back in here after all this head stuff that we've talked about, and we're going to let you have the experience of undergoing change. And so you'll be getting it from the recipient viewpoint, so you'll understand where your employees are when you're asking them to make changes or when you're trying to move the company in a new direction. Okay, so let's start here slowly. We have been using metaphors throughout the workshop. Actually, Frank kicked us off the other day with a musical metaphor and talked about, I think Joe was the first chair violinist or the concert master, and what was that, a conductor? That's a metaphor. I'm obviously not a conductor. Joe, obviously you haven't seen a violin here all week. But it's a word that's used to convey more meaning than maybe what the actual representation is. So, when Frank came back there, we could have had this long discussion about how I am a conductor and how I'm not a conductor. See, I think Frank is the conductor because he's the one that gets us through this whole week. I'm up here performing right now, so I'm not exactly the conductor. I don't know, I'll take first chair oboe or something. But anyway, the point is, that's a way that accelerates learning is if you use a complex concept to represent another. Bull market and bear market are pretty common metaphors that we use. Doesn't mean the market is a bear, although it could mean that. Typically what we mean is it has a lot of characteristics, and just by that short word you convey a whole lot of meaning, a whole lot of understanding. There is a concept called mutating metaphors, and that's a concept of pushing the metaphor until it breaks down, meaning, okay, this no longer works. I've thought this through so fully that it doesn't work. Carl Weick is, I'm not sure where he is now, but he was a professor at Cornell. He's one of the leading academicians in the area of organization behavior and organization development. I had the fortune of having classes from him, and one of the things that he said famously is that you can learn something about anything by comparing it to anything else. That sounds really touchy-feely, loosey-goosey, but he explained, so if you go into a situation you've never been in, say you're walking into an organization for the first time, anything that you want to compare it to. So let's say you walk in and you say, today I'm going to discover how this organization is like an elephant. At the end of that comparison, you will actually understand more about the elephant and more about the organization than you would have if you had just come in and looked around and tried to figure things out. Okay? I'm doing this big build-up because I wish Jerry were here this morning, actually. I think he mentioned in our kickoff comments about that look that CEOs get when, and it conveys that you've just said something really stupid. Well, I couldn't see his face because he was on a conference call, but the morning that we were in a design team meeting and I talked about using the Wizard of Oz to help people be better change agents, there was a even longer than usual pause on the other end. And I imagined if I could see him, I would be getting one of those CEO looks like, what the hell are you talking about? But trust me, we've done this at all of the EMAs, and no one's been hurt so far. And we hope that you won't be the first. So, no, there's not going to be Pink Floyd playing in the background this morning. Sorry about that, despite that rumor. Okay, so we're going to use this as a metaphor now that you understand metaphor and all that stuff. Some of you didn't come see the movie Friday night, which is okay. That wasn't a required thing. Some of you were actually in this room during the whole movie and didn't really see it, but that's okay too. That's okay too. And some of you are thinking, like I said right now, that Pink Floyd was the soundtrack for this movie. So just so that we can do some level setting, and also because it is an accelerated learning technique to have everybody talking, this will be a no microphone activity. We're going to retell the story quickly. I'm going to read up to a blank, and when I get to the blank, everyone should, don't shout, just say with confidence and firmness what word should fill in the blank. But let me get to the blank. There are no points for getting to the blank before I do. Okay? Okay, once upon a time, Dorothy lived in the great state of Kansas with her Auntie Em and Uncle Harry and her faithful dog. Okay, good. You're doing good. These get tougher. One day, a cyclone picked up her house and carried it to the Munchkin land, where she met Glinda, the Good Witch of the North, and her nemesis, the... Okay. Wishing to return to Kansas, Dorothy was advised to travel to the land of Oz via the... and consult the Wizard of Oz. And she wore ruby slippers on the trip. You know, and for those of us who were here, I don't know whether you noticed or not, but the slippers were actually black by the end of the show. Did you notice that? Or that wasn't the alcohol. We were losing some projection capability, and the red color went out of the projector. But I think it kept some of us, it convinced some of us we'd had enough. Okay, along the way, Dorothy teamed up with the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Cowardly Lion. Her companions agreed to make the trip. This is a hard one. This is a 3-answer one. Agreed to make the trip in hopes of searching a blank, blank, and blank, respectively. Okay, now I know why you didn't come see it. Having arrived at Emerald City, Dorothy and friends secured an interview with the Wizard of Oz, who agreed to help Dorothy get home if she brought him the belonging to the Wicked Witch of the West. Dorothy was captured by the... but is freed after she melts the Wicked Witch of the West into oblivion by pouring a bucket of... Good job. I think you deserve to give yourselves a round of applause for that. Okay, so now we start with the metaphor piece. And another purpose of this is to engage your whole brain, not just your left brain, not just your right brain. There's some things you can't teach this way. For example, Joe could not teach all the financial measures and financial ratios by doing some creative metaphorical comparison. It doesn't work. But when you're dealing with people, this really works to get your whole brain engaged. So here's what I'd like for you to do. I'm going to show 2 clips here from The Wizard of Oz. You need a piece of paper to jot down some notes to yourself during these 2 clips. The reason it's 2 clips and not 1 is because we've cut out some unfortunate dancing and singing that's not relevant. And I should say also, this is, the feedback is so important. This was based on feedback the first time we did it. It's like, okay, that was really interesting, but did we have to watch that whole dance sequence to get that point? So we just cut it out. So you'll see the screen start from black to a clip. There'll be a short pause when the next clip comes up, but I'm not going to say anything until after the second clip. And here's what I'd like for you to do. I'll tell you where you're going to be in the movie. You're going to be when the house has just landed in Munchkin Land, and Dorothy is approaching the door to walk out the door of the house. Now, we're going to use Dorothy in this morning and this afternoon as a leader, okay, as a leader / manager who's going on a journey, okay, journey of change, but we'll get there. So right now, all I want you to do is think of all the ways when you watch this clip, what can you say about a manager or a leader by watching this clip? Who are the different characters that you see? What do they represent for you? There are no wrong answers, okay, anything. If one of these characters is, you know, you think it's like your sister or your mother-in-law or whatever, and that may not have anything to do with business, that's okay. Whatever it means to you right now, just go for it. Jot down some notes. After we've seen these two clips, then we're going to talk about what you saw. How is this, remember that comparison, like a manager leading change or maybe not like a manager leading change? Okay? Let's go.